Right, so welcome to the Privateer podcast. My guest today is an entrepreneur at heart, Maurice Van Heerden, CEO and founder of Planetworld, long-time client of the firm. Maurice, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here today on Privateer's podcast.
Yeah, it's amazing to be here. Appreciate you having me.
So, Maurice, take us back right to the beginning. What is the genesis moment of this Planetworld journey that you've been on with you and your brothers?
So I was a school teacher, believe it or not. I was probably the world's worst student. Didn't get a great matric. Spent 5 years at university getting a 3-year degree. I was very disinterested in education. But what I did know is that teachers get lots of holidays. And so I applied for a few jobs in the UK, and I got a job as a sports teacher, a PE teacher, basically. I wasn't particularly good at that either, to be totally honest with you. But at that time, my brother was working for a company called Planet Electronics, which was a small company of 3 or 4 people importing Bluetooth car kits and parking sensors for the automotive sector. And the owner of the company, John Planet, was immigrating to Greece. This is 2007, like just before the financial crisis. If you recall,
Farming was everything.
Greece was the worst hit place in the world, if I remember correctly. But either way, so he wanted to sell the business. And by hook or crook, my dad was involved. All 3 of my brothers were involved in some capacity or another. And then they asked me to come and join them. Not initially to work at Planet Electronics, but actually to start my own business. So I come from quite an entrepreneurial family. My brother had started a company called Easy Shuttle.
Yep. Which he still runs.
Which he still runs today, yeah. And they had, I think at the time, they had 4 or 5 shuttles. So it was also a very small enterprise. So that's link number 1. Link number 2 is my brother's working at this company called Planet Electronics. And they're importing these things for cars, right? And they'd found a headrest DVD player that goes into the headrest. And so we came up with the idea that we should create a new business called Easy Media, which installs these screens into the shuttles. You've got a captive audience, and then we sell advertising on the screens. It's still a pretty good idea in principle, but the execution wasn't great. It was like really bad. And I'll share one funny story with you. So I landed back. So before I came back, I think I came back in the August or July, August. This was 2007. And I'd just been in Thailand for a month with my mates drawling. So I saved up a bunch of money while I was in the UK, and then took a month in Thailand drawling, and then came back on like a Saturday, and Monday's day 1 in the office. And I walk into the office, and I'd had like work shirts made for me in Thailand, and suit pants, and so I showed up looking very Lani. And my brother says to me, "Listen, I've got your first meetings lined up for you." Now, you must bear in mind, I had no experience in a boardroom. I hadn't sat in meetings before. I didn't really have any commercial sense or anything. I was a PE teacher, and not a very good one. And my brother says, "But I've set this meeting up for you. It's at the Amorja Theatre. I don't know if you remember the Amorja Theatre here in town."
Yes. Yeah.
So there was a theatre, and they had the show called Amorja.
Yes.
And they want to advertise on the screens. They use Easy Shuttle. I told them about the screens they want to advertise. I said to my brother Guy, I said, I don't know what I'm doing. What must I go say? He said, no. What you do is take this headrest with you, and you has a battery, and make sure you just connect positive to positive and negative to negative. And then the content will start showing on the screen, and that's the platform. So I said, cool, sounds good. Got in my car, had a little smart car, drove all the way to Joburg. We were in Pretoria at the time. Get to Amorja Theatre, and I walk in, and the lady's name that met me in reception is Anne Power. She's actually a very well-known person in that industry, in the theatre industry. And she says, "Well, everyone's waiting for you in the boardroom." And I walk into the boardroom, and there's a 14-seater boardroom with executives sitting all the way around it. And Maurice in his Thailand-made shirts, who has no idea what he had to sell. And I've never been that nervous in my entire life. It was the biggest flop. One of the most embarrassing moments of my life, because they stuttered and stumbled over my words. I wasn't sure what I was really selling. And then they said, "Well, show us how it works." And then I connected positive to negative and negative to positive, and the whole thing went up in smoke. And that was my entry into the South African business world. But we quickly realized that business wasn't going to work, and then I got involved with Planet Electronics at the time, and we started to import infotainment systems for cars. And at that time, we were purely a B2B. We were supplying into fitment centers and to some dealerships. But I thought it would be a good idea to sell directly to the end consumer. So we started to advertise in places like the Car Magazine and Getaway and, you know, that sort of thing, and generate leads. And I was on the phone basically selling these radios. And then we hired a fitter to go out and fit the radios. And I would say, I mean, my timeline might be off, but it was somewhere between 6 months and a year. That side of the business was bigger than the rest of the business all put together. So there was a huge demand for this product. And that's kind of how the journey started. That's where it all began. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't well thought out. It was just hustling.
Some vision that landed on you, said, I need to get in. And off the back of that, so 4 brothers working together, you the youngest of the 4, so
Yes.
you get to jump in the car and run around and do all of these things.
Yeah.
Fast forward that journey. What does Planetworld look like today?
Yeah, so I mean, arguably Planetworld's the country's most diversified distributor.
Yep.
We operate across 6 different industries, so we still have that core automotive business. But since then, really, you know, the backstory, and again, I don't want to give the impression that there was a huge amount of planning or strategic planning around this. But as it just so happened throughout the years, my brothers and I have always been passionate about music. We've always been music lovers. We play instruments. When we have a few too many glasses of wine, we end up singing together. You know, it's like music's been a big part of our life. And so we started in the automotive sector, but then started with car audio. And really enjoyed working with audio, working with audio products. And it felt like it gave us a little bit of a purpose, you know. Selling a Bluetooth car kit wasn't as sexy as selling, you know, a pair of 6x9s and a subwoofer. And so we leaned into that story, and then over time transferred from car audio only or exclusively to looking at people's homes. You know, what are people doing in their homes? And we had an acquisition in 2018 that brought us into the home market, and then did through 2 or 3 quick acquisitions after that to expand that business, and kind of thought that that's where it would stop. But we were very fortuitous that other opportunities presented themselves, again through acquisition, where we then entered into the musical instrument market, into the pro audio market, which is any kind of live performance, studio recording, stadiums, houses of worship, into that space. And then the last vertical that we've expanded into is Pro AV, which is basically any boardroom solution, enterprise boardroom solution, call centers, that sort of thing. And then I do get bored quite quickly. So we've kind of told the whole inspiration was from the moment that you pick up your first instrument. So we'll sell you the instrument, you know, through one of our retailers, all the way through learning on that instrument, recording, you know, whatever content you're creating, to playing it on a stage, to people listening to it in their home, in their car, at the church, at the nightclub, whatever we wanted to be part of every step of that journey. And we largely are. I mean, we're pretty much the biggest player in each one of those steps in the country. And then we started to look at, well, what else, you know, what have we become good at over this period? And one of the things that we've become really good at is speaking to a premium customer. So we really look at our target market as households with an income above $70,000 or just over R1 million per year. That's our core customer. There's only about 200,000 of them in South Africa. And over time, we've discovered where they shop, how they consume content, what kind of messaging they lean into, what their interests are, geographically where they're located. And so now we're in the process of looking at, well, what can we strap onto our existing infrastructure that speaks to that customer? Yeah. And so we're building a whole lifestyle division at the moment. If you think of smart products that are largely AI-led, that are robotic, that speak to a premium customer. And we're kind of building out a whole new business that leans into that.
Maurice, I think anyone who's spent any time with you will know that you're deeply passionate about your business. Actually, as are all your brothers as well. And you're a perfect example of where you've gone and found a particular area of passion. In this case, it was the music and everything that goes with it. And get that acquisition, get that startup, and use the hustle, the entrepreneurial hustle, to start to build a business, and then find other acquisitions to bolt on. I know we've helped you with one or two acquisitions along the way. If you had advice for other entrepreneurs who are wanting to go along the same journey, how do you think they should manage growth through acquisition?
Yeah, you've almost helped me too much. I think I could start my own acquisition firm at this stage. So that wasn't what we planned. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't strategically driven to start off with. But I'll tell you one thing as an entrepreneur, I'm happy to admit this, is that from 0 to 1 is bloody hard. And we did it when we started with Planet Electronics. But that 0 to 1 to actually having a business that at the very least can break even is incredibly difficult and energy sapping, and I think takes a huge toll on you. But from 1 up to 100 is a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And the advantage you get through an acquisition is that you don't have to do the 0 to 1. There's already an established product or service that's in the market. There's some established infrastructure behind it. Really, you need to figure out how to optimize the infrastructure to improve the service or product offering, and to then scale it.
Yeah.
That to me is a lot easier than the 0 to 1. Coming up with a great idea, registering a business, hiring your first staff, being out in the market and, being the driver and the sales rep and the accountant and all at once, and really hustling to get it from 0 to 1.
Yeah.
So, and also that it takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of time. And so I'm too impatient for that. And so when the first opportunity to acquire a business, I knew nothing about acquisitions. I walked into your office totally wet behind the ears. And you guided us through the process of how it would be beneficial for us to not have to do the 0 to 1 journey, but how we could really make 1 + 1 = 3 as opposed to 2. And that's what's been very successful for us over time. The second one is that we've also been very lucky, to be totally honest with you. The right opportunities come at the right time. And I'm always looking. So I'm always looking for what's happening out in the market. I've offered to buy at least 50 businesses in my life, and I think we've only bought 5. But I'm always looking, so I've always got my foot in the door. And I think the byproduct of doing that is that every now and again, one door opens where it's a perfect match. And we've been very lucky in that sense. So we've had great opportunities come at the right time. And because people know that we're a willing kind of buyer, we like to buy businesses, especially broken businesses. People come knocking on our door at the right time. So,
but you've developed a reputation of becoming good buyers of businesses in the sense that you might find opportunities to go and acquire, but successfully bolting on those businesses onto your business is not as easy as it always seems. But you have got a bit of a recipe that you followed. I know you a strong believer in culture within a business.
Yeah.
How do you manage that transition period when you've brought in something new into the stable?
Well, the first thing is the people. You have to be quite ruthless, unfortunately. Unfortunately for the people that go, but fortunately for the ones that stay.
Yeah.
So you need the right bums in the right seats. And so I think, if I were to look at the success of Planetworld over time, it's largely based on having a good sense of choosing the right people. And still fail at that quite often. But overall, we choose really great people, and we choose the right people to stay in the business. And we're very, very clear about our culture and what our culture is and what it stands for. Within Planetworld, we actually have a very, very free culture. And there's really one guiding principle, and that's to act in the best interest of the company. So we're actively trying to do away with regulation and rules and policy, and so like travel policy, and we try and get rid of all of those things because we believe that if we hire the right people, we don't want to create rules to protect us from dumb people.
Yes.
So let's not hire dumb people. So I guess the first thing is getting the people right. And once the people are right and you bring them into your culture and they buy into that culture, now they have a sort of sense of belonging, and they feel that they're part of a community, and that really, if you want to get the best out of people, you need people when they work for you. It goes beyond their income and working hours and staff parties. It goes to, do they feel that they're really part of something that's purposeful, that gives them meaning, they enjoy being there, and they feel like they're building towards something that's successful.
Yeah.
You know, so we very, very quickly evaluate, if we're buying a company, we look at all the people, which are the people that would fit into this organization, who would thrive within this environment, you know, who brings real value in terms of skill and expertise and experience with them. And that's kind of phase one. And I think if you get that right, you'll pretty much win. The second thing, just operationally, is obviously we have an existing operation, and, you know, acquired company has its own operations. So you kind of have to connect the dots of how do we bring these things together so that they can operate as one operation, and we can reduce our, you know, the requirement for people and processes and whatever. So we can bring it all into one operation and reduce the cost of doing business. So one of the transactions we did was buying Tom's, Sound of Music, which was a similar size to what Planetworld was at the time. Yes. So both had roughly 80, 90 staff, similar revenue, similar-ish stock holding. So you effectively had one business that was really thriving with that overhead and number of people and so on, and one that was
struggling,
really, really struggling. The beauty of that was that we could go, okay, so we can double up on revenue, which means we'll roughly double up on GP. And if we build the operation from the ground up, how profitable, you know, what's going to happen to profitability?
Yes.
And it didn't take rocket science to figure out your profit's going to soar if you can get this right. So initially it was very, very difficult because the culture gap was night and
enormous.
Night and day. So you're talking one business that had been around for, I think it was registered in the late 40s. The average age of people working there was above 50. It was a very close-knit community, very hierarchical, lots of structure, huge cost base, not sexy. There was nothing sexy about the business. It was very just functional. You know, you would walk into the offices and it was so stale and, you know, mix match of furniture. There was no sense of belonging. And then you had our business, which was like more of like a young tech type environment, you know. We were jeans and t-shirts that bumped into pointy shoes and button-up shirts, you know. And very quickly realized that pretty much no one from this company can transition to ours.
Yeah.
So a few did. Out of 80 or 90, maybe 12 did. So that was quite ruthless. But once we brought those people in, and then we started to hire, great people that were a good cultural fit for our business, but that also had expertise in the new business. And we also, you know, we've got a rule at Planetworld, is you eat what you kill, you know. So we provide them with a great platform to really dramatically increase their earnings, and also be in full control of their own kind of personal P&L.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And look, it was rough going in the beginning, but you know, the business has thrived since then. And we will always continue to look for acquisitions. Anything we can bolt onto our existing culture and our existing infrastructure that will add value to our customers, our suppliers, and our staff. You know, we were always interested. In fact, I just had a meeting yesterday with somebody that might want to sell their business. You know, he didn't want to sell it, but I went to him and said, I think you should sell it, and I think you should sell it to me. So,
and it fits in nicely, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Maurice, at heart, you're an optimist. You like to build things. But as an entrepreneur, you know, things don't always go according to plan. What are the things that worry you at night, that you worry about, whether they be within the business, within the macro of South Africa? What are the things that you and probably other entrepreneurs get concerned about?
So I don't think my approach is unique, but surprisingly, I basically don't worry about anything that I'm not in control of.
Yep.
So I don't actively read the news. I don't actively follow the currency, because whether I actively follow it or not, it's going to do what it's going to do. And all that will potentially do is add more stress on my plate, because there's plenty of things in the business that I can worry about. So to be honest, in terms of macroeconomic conditions, I stay close enough to them so that we can make good business decisions, but I certainly don't worry about them. The thing I worry about most, I would say, is really around people and culture. Because I know that if we've got the right people and we've got the right culture, then you know, the business in a sense kind of looks after itself. And so like this year, one of the things that happens when a business grows, as you'll know, is that typically, let's say you're 50 people, you can have a very loose culture. You know everyone in the business. They know you. They know your wife. Your kids come to the office sometimes, and you've got this intimate knowledge of everybody there. And then it goes to like 100 people, 120 people, and then you go, oh, I know what I need to do. We need to become corporate. We need to start building rules and policies. And then you get to 200 people, and then it's like, now we really need rules and structures and an HR team and this. And probably the most profound book that I read quite recently, because I kept kicking up against this, and then I hire an HR manager and say, well, we need this rule and we need that rule and we need this rule. And by nature, I don't stick to the rules, just by nature, I'm disobedient. And so whenever
anyone who knows you knows that's true.
Yeah. So if you tell me I must turn left, then I go, bugger that, I want to turn right. Why must I turn left? Don't tell me what I must do. I want to do it a different way. And so that's just in my nature. But where I was stuck was, I know I want a company that doesn't have all these rules, but I'm not sure how else to do it.
Yeah.
And then I read this book, No Rules, Rules. Yes. I don't know if you've read the book.
I haven't read that one, no.
It'll blow your mind. It's a very practical guide, basically. It's Reed Hastings, he's the founder of Netflix.
Okay.
It's a very basic guide into how to build a scalable, big business without 1,000 rules, and to keep it agile and to keep it moving fast. And there's essentially three things, which is hire great people, have a fantastic kind of candid feedback loop, and then just get rid of the rules, And so it's a very simple process to follow. Tough at first, because you have to have honest and tough conversations with people sometimes. And, you don't go through a whole disciplinary procedure. The moment something's happening that is not right, you deal with it immediately. And you create, but you've got to build that culture all the way through the business. And then people know when they're doing something that's not acting in the best interest of the business. So they get guided quickly. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You let them go and you get somebody else that fits into the culture. And, that's really, for me, the most important thing. The thing that I worry about is getting that culture right. It's getting all the fish swimming in the same direction. Those are the things that keep me up at night.
So important in any kind of growing business. It's that old Peter Drucker thing, culture will eat strategy for breakfast.
And I think if you've got a company that has a clear vision of its culture and who it wants to be and what it wants to do and what value that will add to its stakeholders, whether that be customers, suppliers, or the people in the business.
Love that idea of adding value.
Exactly.
That's the important point. That's the purpose of business.
Exactly. So you can get caught up into structure for structure's sake. Not because it's important to the stakeholders, but because the textbook says when it's 100 people, you have to bring in this policy and you have to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't subscribe to it. And so, my textbook is now No Rules, Rules. I encourage you to read it.
We grapple with similar things within our practice as we've grown numbers and numbers, and how you manage that and still keep that entrepreneurial spirit that was the essence of what this business was about.
Well, and you want to keep it, right?
It's the fun bit.
That's the fun bit. And you want people around you that are really smart, that have a voice, that can challenge you,
yes,
but are obviously deeply invested in growing your business, and I believe certainly where I am now that's the kind of the best way to do it.
Are you an avid reader? Do you read other business books?
I wouldn't say I'm an avid reader, but I only pretty much read business books.
Okay. Any ones in particular that, other than the one you just mentioned, that have taken your fancy, or that you think, South African entrepreneurs, you should go read this one?
Yeah, so interestingly, quite recently I read Capitec's book. Okay. I can't remember who the author was.
TJ Stratum. He's a guest on the Planetworld podcast. Fantastic book.
And well written, and it really spoke to me as an entrepreneur, because what I realized through reading that book is that, to be an entrepreneur, you don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be prepared to hustle.
Yeah.
Two, these guys have a really big business. It's a proper business. It's the biggest bank, I think, in the country right now, if probably the continent. Yet they still have managed to maintain this loose entrepreneurial style that is constantly just looking at how do we create more value for the stakeholders, and this kind of singular focus on if we're going to do something that competes with another bank, let's not do it twice as good. Let's do it 5 times as good, you know, and let's set ourselves that ambitious target and live and die by that target. And I think that's something that you can apply to a hairdresser, or, you know, or a business like ours or a business like yours. So there were a lot of principles in that book that really stood with me. And we incidentally now bank with Capitec, largely because of that book.
Making big inroads into business banking at the moment. It's quite something. Eh?
Yeah, so very aggressive, but they've been great to work with. You can, what I like about them is they're entrepreneurial. So you can have a real entrepreneurial discussion with them. And again, I think banks by their nature become are highly regulated. And it depends on what cycle the bank is. If the bank needs business, then they kind of ease up the regulation a bit. But if things are going well, then the regulation is too high. And you've seen, we've been around the banks, and you and me have been through banks together. So you know they're all at different places. But where Capitec is right now, and I think what they've sustained from the early days where they were basically loan sharks, is this entrepreneurial style and this appetite for growth. And not really growth in revenue, but like, how do we best deliver the products and services that our customers need and want? You know, and that's their focus.
Yeah.
Only that.
Capitec, a great South African story. I know you a prolific traveler as well. You've done a whole bunch of traveling this year. A lot of it's work related. Going to go explore new markets, new products. What is it that you gain from those travels? And what is it that you think other South African businesses should potentially be aware of from some of your travels?
Well, the one thing I would say about traveling is I realize how bloody great South Africa is, to be totally honest with you. So I have a huge bias towards South Africa as somebody that's traveled a lot. Yeah, you know, our organizations are not as rigid. In fact, I was at a talk recently with the CEO of Capitec. His name just slipped my mind, Harry. And he said that he was recently, I think it was in Switzerland, and he said it's beautiful, it's clean, the roads are clean, the lights work, everything's amazing, it's wonderful. But try and open a business in Switzerland. You know, and so I think that the great thing about South Africa is there are a lot of things that don't work, but each one of those presents a great opportunity. But I think it also just, you know, for me, like I've recently spent a bit of time in China, and it blew me away. Like I've been to China many times, but not for some time. And I actually landed back in South Africa. I was in Beijing for 5 days. Yeah. And I went straight to the office from the airport, and I drove through Alex. And I, you know, said to myself in my head, I said, every single person I'm driving past here would give anything to live in China as opposed to here. I know that we may not agree with the politics of it, whatever, but it's clean. Everybody has homes. Everybody has a meal to eat. Everybody has a purpose, whether they choose their purpose or not, but they've got something to get out of bed to do. And it works. I mean, I was just blown away at how advanced the country is, at how great the people are, at how beautiful it is. It's spotless. And when I say spotless, I mean Beijing is a huge city. It is absolutely spotless, even in its rural parts. I did not see one shanty town, and we spent hours and hours and hours driving around the city. It's always interesting to get a different context in different countries and to see the way that different people do things. And you can always, you know, if you're constantly looking, you'll learn lessons from these things. And China, what I brought back from that is the Chinese have an incredible pride in their country and their immediate surroundings. They take a real pride, you know, so they throw their papers in the dustbin, not because someone told them to, but because they're proud of their little area, their community, and they want to protect it. And I thought that wasn't always like that. 10 years ago, I was in Guangzhou 10 years ago, and I remember posting a photo on Facebook at that stage saying, this is the face of communism. And it was literally just one building after the next that looked identical, and it was filthy and dirty, and it was smog. You go to Guangzhou now, it's like an ultra modern city, ultra modern.
Transformed itself very rapidly.
totally. And I think also, there's always been this notion that made in China is somehow, somehow a negative thing. I think it's a huge badge of honor. Made in Germany was always we know it's quality now. And it's really true for even if you look at the automotive trade. Some of the cars, look, we obviously have a big influx of Chinese cars coming to South Africa now. But if you look at the cars that are in China from these big Chinese producers like Xiaomi and BYD and these guys,
incredible.
They will rival any German car that you've ever seen, except more tech, better build quality, much more integrated AI and automated driving. And I drove in a car, there was no driver, just automated driving around Shenzhen. And you're just like, this is like a different planet.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm lucky. I get to travel all over Europe and the US and the East, and usually the best part of it is not the place; it's the people that you meet there. I think normally it's trade conferences or it's supplier visits or those things, and you have the opportunity then to meet people who've been doing what you're trying to do or have been doing for a long time, and you can ask them a lot of questions. You'll be surprised. People don't ask you a lot of questions. But if you go and ask a lot of questions, you'll be shocked at what people will actually tell you. They'll tell you everything about their business and exactly how they did it and where they did it and how they did it. And if you're just sharp enough to keep your mouth shut and listen, you can learn a lot.
Well, it's something I speak to the young staff here, the audit staff here. The root of the word audit comes from Latin, to listen, to hear it. And go and speak to an entrepreneur, ask him about his business. You'll be surprised at how much he will tell you about the business and how much you can learn from that interaction. They're naturally proud about their business. Why would they not bring you into their fold and tell you that?
And I couldn't agree with you more. I think that a lot of people prefer the sound of their own voice, and they believe that speaking more somehow makes them more powerful in the conversation. But one thing I've learned is that, specifically from a business perspective, is when you're spending time with somebody that has achieved something, just keep your mouth shut and ask lots of questions, and you'll be shocked at how much information you can steal from them. And really, my entire career has basically been a bunch of plagiarized efforts that I've seen. Wow, that guy did that. That's really cool. I'm going to steal it and just frame it in a way that works in our business and then implement it. Yeah. And almost every strategic decision we've made has, in some sense or not, been plagiarized of somebody else that I bumped into at a trade show. Or, saw one of our manufacturers that was doing something that I thought was really great, or, and you just steal the idea and use it as your own.
And then, Maurice, coming back to your business here, you've got a fantastic showroom now in Cromwell. You've got Rockstar Studios. Tell us a little bit more about what's happening there.
Yeah, so we part of, and again, there's no financial argument that I can make for building these facilities, because they're intangible assets that we can't directly measure the return that they're giving us. But at the end of the day, we sell, products, but most of those products, or a large portion of those products, belong to an ecosystem. So, I can sell you a speaker, but a speaker requires an amplifier, and the amplifier requires a music source. And to really appreciate it, it needs to be in a room that's acoustically treated to really get the full experience. So we're selling a story. And the whole idea around building showrooms was, we've actually got to create the kind of story for the customer and allow him to experience the complete story in order to sell him the product. So what we did was, we're involved in a few different, we call it our project side of our business. So we've got a retail side, which is what we sell to all of the major retailers, and you go and pick off the shelf. But then we've got a project side of our business. And in that, we've got one which is focused around the home. So think of home automation, think of home cinema, lighting, that sort of stuff. It's very difficult for me to sell you a 2 million rand lighting system for your house without actually demonstrating it. All right. And if I demonstrate it in a space that looks nothing like your house, that's just the back of an office, it's not going to be appealing to you. So we built a showroom. Basically, we can show show off all these products in a space that feels like a home, that's beautifully designed, that's luxurious, because that's the target market that we're talking to. But we don't sell to the end consumer. So we actually build it on behalf of our resellers, none of which are really of the kind of size and scale that could afford to create something like that by themselves. So we built it for all of them who can use it as a platform to sell their products and services to that market. And we do that across homes, so residential. And then we've got a whole commercial section. So I think restaurants, shopping malls, stores, barbershops, all of these places, they need audiovisual equipment, they need sound. You know, what makes a space feel warm and inviting, outside of it being full of people. So, you know, you can go into the most beautiful restaurant in the world. If it's empty, you're never going to get that warm, fuzzy feeling. But the other two that make a huge difference is the way the lighting and the sound.
Yep.
And you can normally not, unless you're looking out for it, you normally don't know that it's lighting and sound. The average consumer doesn't know, but they can feel it.
Yes.
You walk in and you can feel.
Go to one of these premium restaurants here in Johannesburg.
Exactly.
One in particular, I'm thinking about with the view that looks out over the hills.
Yes.
It's the lighting and the sound.
You walk in and it feels warm and inviting. So that's what we sell. We can't sell that off a spec sheet. You know, so we've got to create the environment. And then, you know, our marketing team goes out and gets designers and architects and interior designers and integrators of this technology to come and experience it. And then hopefully they start to spec our products into their projects moving forward. So we do that across residential, commercial, and then the live entertainment space. So if you think of houses of worship, which is a huge business in Africa, schools, nightclubs, bars, stadiums. You know, I'm very proud that every Springbok game that you watch in South Africa, the sound equipment comes from us.
Okay.
Menlyn Main's big theatre, all that sound comes from us. Many of the stadiums around the country come from us. But again, that's a system, right? So we need to sell that system. That system's made up of thousands of parts. So we've created a space where we can actually demonstrate all those parts put together in a real live environment. So we have live performances at our office all the time, and we have people that come and play to show off the equipment. But that was a gut feel thing. I still can't tell you exactly what the return on investment is on that because it's intangible. You don't know. But what I do know is people want to do business with us. Yeah. When they come and they see and they're like, wow, your office is amazing. The showrooms are incredible. All of a sudden now they're like, I want to do business with these guys. They're cool. Yeah.
Here's something maybe a little bit more personal, but when you're going to try out a sound system, what's the track that you put on? What's the album that you put in?
Joe Bonamassa.
Okay.
It's a kind of blues. Yeah, it's he's a blues guitarist. It was actually Kicker is one of the first car audio brands we ever distributed, and the guy that we used to deal with at Kicker, he played Joe Bonamassa for me. The music's great, but the recording is unbelievable. So I always reference, I can't even tell you what the track's name is, but it's track 3 on It's a Kind of Blues. Yeah. And I always listen to that first. It's got this great bass line with this, and the song starts with a 2-minute guitar solo.
Yeah.
And I know exactly how it should sound. And I can tell immediately whether it's a great speaker or a good setup or not. And you must have one.
I listened to a couple of them. I don't know if I've got one particular favorite one that I like, but more acoustic. I like the vocals, so I tend to go for more like a Florence and the Machine.
Yes.
I want to test that vocal because that vocal range is quite powerful.
Or big power stuff like I like Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah,
it's like super powerful, and if a speaker can really deliver that, I mean, it'll give you good. I've listened to Bomb Track. I mean, it's like a super aggressive song, but I still get goosebumps when I hear it on a good system.
One of the businesses that you acquired was a business called Audiotronic, and that was probably my first intro into what high-end audio could be as an article clerk, doing an audit of Audiotronic all those many years ago, and going in and listening to a Michael Jackson track in Gary McChrystal's business there at Audiotronic, and the world changed for me. The light bulb moment went on. Wow, this is what real audio is all about. Yeah. And from then I have to have something like this in my house.
Yeah, and that's what a showroom is, right? You know, so sometimes you don't know until you know.
Yeah.
And like I said, we talk to a wealthy consumer across all of our divisions. So what will very often happen is someone will come in because they have a restaurant and they want to put an audio system in the restaurant. But we have a home cinema, a whole section. We've got 3 cinemas and we've got stereo rooms. And of course, anyone that comes gets the full tour. And then they'll end up buying a cinema for their house or an audio system. Because like you say, you don't know until you know.
Yeah.
And once you've listened to a piece of music that you know very well and you've listened to 100 times, but then you listen to it on a really great system, it's like listening to it for the first time.
Yeah,
you hear little nuances that you never knew were there. You can feel the guitarist's fingers kind of drifting up and down the strings, and you almost with exact precision. It feels like you're sitting right in front of the artist and you're there and it's staged right in front of you. If you close your eyes, it feels as though he's actually there. The thing is that audiophile market, it's how long's a piece of string. Because I'll give you one. There's a guy here in Sandhurst who built his house for his sound system. Conservatively, he spent in the region of 40 million rand on equipment alone.
Wow!
And then, of course, he built his foundation goes 40 meters deep, so that there's no vibration.
Deep, yeah. So
that's how extreme it can get. Now, you don't have to go that extreme, but that's how extreme the obsession with creating with listening to something exactly how the artist put it onto that track.
Yeah.
It can become a total obsession.
And Maurice, if you had to, like sitting here, and you were talking to your junior self, what message would you be giving your junior self about business?
Sure. To be, I really wish I had something very smart to tell you. I really do. But the only thing I would say is that I don't think, and certainly from my experience, I've had a huge amount of luck. I've had a huge amount of right place and right time. I've managed to surround myself with really capable people that are motivated by my cause. And I'm not sure how that happened. If I can look back and retrospectively say, well, that was a good decision at the time, but it very well could have been a bad decision at the time. So, I would just say, don't overthink it. I think action ahead of planning is always going to win. And this is something I try and keep in the business now. Is you can also plan a thing half to death. There's no such thing as the perfect plan, and what you have to accept is that. You could get, was it Mike Tyson? Everyone's got a plan to get punched in the face. All right, so you're going to get punched in the face a lot. And so you're going to have to pivot on your plan and change. And don't be too hard on yourself. Just action ahead of plan. And really the best place to learn and to improve your plan is while taking action.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's good advice or not, but that's worked for me over the years. And that's still what I do today. Like I don't sit and plan my next move for 3 years' time.
Yeah.
I'm also just kind of impulsively moving from one opportunity to the next.
It is a trait common to a lot of entrepreneurs, that the ability to make decisions, lots of them, and get moving and course correct along the way.
Yeah.
Also to be impatient, to be restless. And when you get restless, get creative, building new businesses. I mean, Maurice, it's been a pleasure having you here on the Privateers podcast. Between you and your brothers, you've built some exceptional businesses here. I know that the future for you guys at Planetworld is huge. It's only just starting and it's already a big business. Congratulations on that. But thank you for joining us today on the Privateers.
And congratulations on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Happy to be here.